Hey everybody, so our next video is going to be looking at New England. So we're going to be talking about the Puritans and like the establishment of Plymouth, a little bit on Massachusetts, and kind of just like some early stuff for New England. So Puritanism in New England, this is a very different social order than, say, Virginia. Puritanism differed amongst themselves on many issues, a lot of varying degrees. Religious beliefs were complex in a very demanding manner, and typically they did follow the teachings of John Calvin. So, like Calvinism, a little bit. Mainly the idea of predestination, the idea that God had already determined who was going to be saved and who was already damned for being sent to hell. Sorry. Email popped in, kind of scared me for a second. So Puritanism, they very much believed in the idea of moral liberty. So it's not a simple set of ideas or state of mind. The big things to keep in mind here is that they were separatists. They abandoned the Church of England. These are the Pilgrims, and they hoped to purify the church from within. So they came to the British colonies, honestly in the search of liberty, especially freedom of religion and governance. They see this as a big spiritual affair, and like this is like their thing. And you have people like John Winthrop who identifies two kinds of liberty. You have natural liberty that you're born with, and moral liberty. Like that's like your liberty to like make those good choices and like to be that moral person and do this and do that. Like those two conflicting ideas. So obviously, Pilgrims at Plymouth. The big thing to keep in mind here is when they get here, they establish the Mayflower Compact, which is like one of the biggest documents in American history. It is the first example of a early American law, legal system, and governmental code. The Mayflower Compact is a huge component when it comes to the Constitution being written. Obviously, again, videos will be linked in the description box down below. So officially, Massachusetts will be chartered in 1629, and by 1642, 21,000 Puritans will have made the trip to Massachusetts. This is known as the Great Migration, but it does only reflect less than a third of English emigration. Now, settling of New England was pretty unique. Most settlers arrived in families, and they weren't necessarily coming as individuals trying to seek it out on their own. They came for many reasons, and the population is going to grow rapidly due to the balance of genders. Because it was pretty much an even balance of men and women, babies were being born at a pretty quick rate and a pretty steady rate, to the point that they were able to keep the population up versus like the Virginia colony, where the first few years were solely men being sent to the colonies. Pardon. So a little bit on the Puritan family. The patriarchy, it's alive and well in Puritanism. It flourished heavily in New England. Now, Puritans emulated the family structure of England, with the father's authority being vital, especially in farming societies. Now, women were deemed to be spiritual equals under Puritanism. They were allowed to be full church members, they did have a say in marriage and divorce, but they were still forced to submit to men in some manners. And honestly, their responsibilities defined their lives, with their primary responsibilities being to get married and, have babies. The foundation of the community was huge here with the family, with unmarried adults being viewed as being dangerous to society. And due to the balance of genders, more children were being born. And actually, for New England compared to other colonies, more children actually survived infancy than others, setting a pretty good chance of them making it to adulthood. So, government and society. We talked about the Mayflower Compact a minute ago. Now, here they identified the bond of brotherly affection that feared excessive individualism and lack of social unity. They were like, we're all in this together. We're all like united in this one front. Now, more often than not in Massachusetts, they were organized into self governing towns that were given land grants, and with most land remaining in commons. A lot of times they had their own congregational churches, and eventually, one of the only requirements they were required to have by the colonial government is that they had a school. With that, government also heavily reflected religious and social visions of the communities. Typically, there was also a general court elected by freemen, and there was also the idea of the principle of consent, that people had to, actively consent to be a part of the government, which is really big when you think about the context of the colonies and like other colonial governmental structures that we'll talk about. Like, it's very democratic what was going on in Massachusetts. But the big thing to keep in mind here is that the church was heavily involved. But there was some separation of church and state. 17th century New England society was very much based in hierarchy, with a body of liberties that applied some traditional understandings of liberty. Some applied to all, and like you kind of don't think about this one when it comes to Massachusetts. It did allow for slavery. Now, in terms of separation of church and state, ministers were not allowed to hold office. I see I have a typo here I need to fix. And really, with that, the church and state were very close, but they were separate in that regard. But the government did still establish that they were required to establish a church and levy a tax to pay for the minister. It was state enforced religious devotion. Like, that's kind of a big thing. Now, the big thing here is that this was meant to complete the Reformation, and this does lead to direct conflict with Native Americans. The big thing to keep in mind here is that we're going to see with this kind of just like this overwhelming conflict on a spiritual level. So, looking at Native nations, for Massachusetts specifically, we have the Masoit and the Wampanoags. Now, they did seek alliances. Now, there were some strategic alliances here, like trade, defense, and honestly, these two groups became intermediaries, between the English and other Native groups. Now, along with this, Massachusetts establishes new towns on top of native towns. Boston being a massive example of this. The city of Boston was literally built on top of a native town that was already there. Attempts at conversion, they claimed it was their mission, but they didn't maintain their efforts, mainly because they were afraid the natives would convert the colonists to their religion. They believed that they enjoyed the wrong kind of freedom that the natives did. And there was a lot of captivity narratives of like people being captured by Native Americans, and that's why they had justification to go against them. It's kind of messed up. So honestly, this does lead to conflict with the Pequot War between the British and Native populations. I'll let the video explain that one. It does a really good job of explaining it. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video, which is our last one for the chapter.